looking at the book of Jonah, as that little bumper video showed you. We're in the second week of looking at the book of Jonah. And I said this last week, but I'll say it again. A lot of times we hear this story and there's a giant whale, and as adults, sometimes our brains just check out because we go, this is a kid's story, put that with the Noah's Ark stuff, and there's a toy that goes with it, and we'll just push that over here. And yet, Jonah was a prophet of God. That God was sent to a group of people to speak a word to and maybe against, and it's important for us to look at these bits of scripture and just learn from them and examine them and allow them to speak to our hearts and where we're at right now in our lives, whether we be 8-year-olds or 80-year-olds. The Word of God has a powerful message for us, and so today we're going to be looking at the book of Jonah, chapter 1, and it's going to be verses 4 through, I think it's 18, 16? It's an even number at the end there. I'll find out when I open this guy up. And it's just going to be a second part of the story, and in this part of the story, we see just the ramifications of what it looks like to live in the midst of a storm. And it's the direct results of Jonah's actions and just what that means and what that looks like to be in this place. So it's Jonah, chapter 1, verses 4 through 16. See, I was kind of right. This is what it says, beginning in verse 4. Then the Lord sent a great wind onto the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All of the sailors were afraid, and they cried out to each their own god, and they threw the cargo into the sea so that they might lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and he fell into a deep sleep. The captain went up to him and he said, "How can you be asleep? Arise and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us so that we will not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell to Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? Who are the people that you are part of?" He answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." At this, they were terrified, and they asked, "What is it you have done?" They knew he was the one running away from the Lord because he'd already told them so. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, "What is it we should do to make the sea calm down for us?" "Pick me up and throw me into the sea," he replied, "and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault that this great storm has come upon you." Instead, the men did their best to row back to land, but they could not, for the sea grew even more wild than before. And then they cried out to the Lord, "Please, Lord, do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man, for you, Lord, have done as you pleased." And then they took Jonah and they threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. At this, the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord, and they made vows to him. This is the word of God for the people of God. So, Jonah is told by God to arise and go to Nineveh and speak to them for me. He's a prophet of God. And it says in the first 3 verses of the book of Jonah that Jonah arises and literally walks the other direction from where God has called him to. He does not want to go to Nineveh. He does not want to talk to those people. He does not want to speak God's judgment or grace or whatever message God has for him. He has no interest in doing that, and so he literally goes the other way. He goes down. He goes down and away from where he's been called and buys a ticket to get on a boat. Because land alone is not enough to separate Jonah from what it is that he's been asked to do. He has been called by God to go somewhere, and he says, no, I'm going to go to the end of the land, and then when I get to the end of the land, I'm buying a boat ticket, and I'm going further. This is the rebelliousness of Jonah. He is trying to get as far as possible from where God has called him, that he is moving across water so that he might get away from this thing that he has been asked to do. So he buys this ticket and he gets on the boat. And he must have mentioned to them that he's running from God and I'm just going to go take a nap, because that's what he does. He gets in the boat and he goes below deck. He doesn't want much to do with these guys. These people running the boat, these not fishermen, these sailors, they would have probably been pagans, because where he was not a Hebrew area. And so he's on a boat with a bunch of people who are not Israelites. And so he gets down into the deepest, darkest part of the boat, away from everybody, and he falls asleep. A deep sleep. This is the sleepy prophet. He is doing the sleep of the dead in the ship's hold. You ever notice how exhausting it is when you run from God and his call? When you've been asked by God or pursued by God. When God's prevenient grace, his grace that comes before, pursues you and says, oh, if you would just come to me. And if you would just come to me, you would know forgiveness and life and peace. If you would just come to me, you would know joy and purpose and light in your life. If you would just come to me, and then when God says, okay, I've got you, and now I want to send you. And I want to send you out into places and to people and spread my good news. When we run from either the wooing of God or the sending of God, it's physically exhausting, isn't it? I helped plant a church a couple years back. And our target demographic was race car people. And race car people, that sounded strange, didn't it? Fans of NASCAR and race cars. And we had a small speedway that was in town. And tell you what, there were plenty of people that filled the speedway every single Saturday night. And we made that our mission field. And we went there, and our worship team became the live band that they'd call whenever they needed some live music, and the pastors and a bunch of key leaders. We would visit the speedway, and this is not my crowd. This is an interesting crowd. I've never watched NASCAR in my life, and here we are. We're learning all about the things, and as we built relationships with them, and as we shared faith with them and Jesus with them, and as they began to come to our church that we had planted for them. It was an amazing couple years. We had a great response, and we ended up with a driver who was like, I want to put your church name on my car. And so there was a big Epic logo. That was the name of the church, Epic. A big Epic logo on the front of the hood of his car. It was super cool. I mean, we were the race car church, and we had race car people, and they were finding Jesus, and they were so interested, right? About 2 years in, there was a noticeable dip that started happening in attendance, and particular people that started to be missing. And I was the associate pastor, so the lead pastor, that's his job. He was starting to chase those people down, right? Where are you? We miss you. We love you. Is everything okay? You know, not in a make you feel guilty about anything, but just in a care. Like we miss having you around. Are you all right? Is everything going okay? And it was really interesting what was said back to him. There was a number of people, and they must have talked because they were a community even unto themselves, right? But the thing and the feedback he got back was this: I love your church. I love the music. I love the sermons. And I think I love Jesus. But when I come there, it doesn't feel good, because I know what Jesus wants me to do in my life. Either what he's calling me from or what he's calling me to, right? And it was different stories for different people. I can sense that Jesus is calling me and wants me to walk away from some things or walk towards some things. And honestly, it's exhausting being in that place, because I walk out of there just feeling terrible. Even though I love the music, even though I love the sermons, even though I love the people, even though I think I love Jesus, I am exhausted because I don't want to walk away or I don't want to walk towards some of those things. It's exhausting when God is pursuing you and you don't want to come to him. It's exhausting when God is calling you and you don't want to go where he calls you. And so Jonah goes into the boat and falls so deeply asleep because his heart, soul, mind, and everything is just tired because he's running from God. And he falls so deeply asleep that when this storm pops up, an unusual storm, like the way this is written, like these are sailors. This is not their first time on a boat. They're not like figuring out, now where are the oars? Like they know all the things, right? And this storm is so unusual that when it hits, they're all caught off guard. And they immediately know that this is something supernatural, because what is their response? They throw a bunch of stuff overboard and then they start crying out to the gods, whatever their God was. They start crying out and saying, oh, whoever's doing this, stop it, right? So they know something is wrong. And here is Jonah running from God, exhausted, asleep, and they are responding as they can respond. They only know what they know. What can we do? We can lighten the boat, so get rid of the cargo, and we can cry out to whatever God it is that I follow. But nothing happens. They exhaust all of their ability to take care of this problem. They can't do anything else. And so finally the captain of the ship goes down into the hold. And he says to Jonah, arise. This is the third time this exact word has been used in just a few short verses. First it was arise and go to Nineveh, and then he arose and ran the other direction. And now Jonah is being told to arise and call on your God. We're in trouble. Everyone else is doing this, and we need you to join the chorus. You rise up and call on your God. To which Jonah does not do. It's not there. It doesn't say that he says, "O God of heaven, creator of the land and the sea, rescue." Those words are not there. And so even though he's told to rise up and call on God, this sleepy prophet, this exhausted running prophet, this prophet who does not want to do the will of God, he doesn't do it. He remains silent. While everyone else is doing what they can, he remains silent. It's amazing the storms of life that come, isn't it? And I read this week. It's a great little quote. The Bible does not say that every difficulty in your life and in the world is a result of sin. But it does say that every sin will bring you into difficulty. Isn't that good? The Bible doesn't say that every difficulty in your life is the result of sin, but it does say that every sin will bring you into difficulty. And that's what we see here at this beginning part of Jonah, right? Jonah is running, Jonah is exhausted, Jonah's doing Jonah's thing, and his sin, running from God, being disobedient to God, is bringing about this calamity all around him. The storms of life swirl around, literally swirling around him because of his disobedience. His sin is not just this little thing that he's harboring inside, and he has to, sleep a really deep sleep because he's so exhausted. You want to think that that's all that sin does, right? It's just me and my little woe, and I'm going to wallow in the hull of the ship. No. The sin of his life creates a storm in his life that swirls around and creates challenges and difficulties for him. How many times in our lives do we think, oh no, this is not going to harm anyone. I can just do these kinds of things and it's fine. I can have that attitude, and it's just my attitude. It doesn't reflect on God or anybody else or anything. I can say and do these things, and it's fine. It's just me. It's a contained thing. Or I can think these thoughts, and it's all right. It's not going to leak anywhere else. Or I can consume these kinds of media, and it's fine. It's just me. It's not hurting anyone else. Or I can engage in this kind of activity, and it's pretty limited. It's just when we sin, we're creating opportunity for storms to come our way. Because it's never just. It's always more. What's that saying? Sin takes you further than you wanted to go and keeps you longer than you meant to stay. You ever heard that one? That's a good one. Sin always takes you further than you wanted to go and keeps you longer than you wanted to stay. And then the storms come. And then you're sitting in the middle of them. And then someone says, you should arise and call out to God. And you go, oh, I'm too ashamed. I've gone too far. I've stayed too long. Maybe this is just life. There's another group of people that are involved in this storm that have done nothing, right? We've got this whole boat of sailors. And that's why I like the quote where it says, not all challenges that come, not all storms that come your way are the result of sin, although if you do sin, you're creating a storm. And Jonah has sinned and was running from God, and there's a storm swirling going all around it, life-threatening stuff going on around. And then you've got this innocent group of sailors. They don't even know God, and they're like, what did we do? Your problem has become my problem. And in the midst of this, like, they're having to sit in the midst of the storms of life that are not their making. And they have to figure out what to do. And it's interesting to see that they do everything that they can possibly do, right? As the story goes on, like, they're exhausting their options. They're throwing things overboard. They're crying out to their gods. They're making vows and sacrifices. They're drawing lots. As it goes, they're just doing everything that they physically, mentally, spiritually can do of their own strength. But it's interesting because this challenge is not of their making. The storm is not of their making. And yet, they find themselves in the midst of it. And they still have to navigate it. And all of their strength, all of their wit and cunning, all of their experience as sailors gets them nowhere. They are going to die. They're going to die in this storm. Just like Jonah. That's where they're at. They're in a place of desperation because they have tried everything they can possibly try, which is why this story just takes such cool and interesting turns. Verses 7 through 10, we see them finally get Jonah out of the hole, right? Out of the down below, and they get him up on the deck, and they're like, what did you do? We can't figure out what's going on. We need to know what's going on, so let's draw lots and find out who to blame in this scenario, because the storm of life has come upon us, and we are going to all drown. And so they draw these lots, and they're whatever that means, and so they're casting dice or drawing straws, and whatever happens, somehow it comes up Jonah. And they look at him and they go, who are you? Where have you come from? What is your job? What is your purpose? Who are your people? Who is your God? We need to know everything about you. Because what in the world is going on right now? This is the weirdest storm we've ever been part of, and we don't know how to navigate it. We've tried everything we can try, and so who are you? He has a brief, almost flippant response. I'm a Hebrew. I follow Yahweh. He created all of this. It's kind of the end of my story, When the storms of life come, they make us ask a question, don't they? And sometimes somebody else asks you the question, and sometimes you have to ask yourself the question, who am I? Who am I? What am I rooted in? Who are my people? What is my support system? What is it I do with my life? What is my purpose? Who is it I follow and why? Who am I? It happens usually when we have those stormy moments, when there's no clear answer as far as a way through, or at least there's no easy answer as far as a way through, where we sit back and we reflect, maybe for the first time in years. What is this life? Where am I going? Who am I? What will I do? Does this matter? Who am I following? We don't spend enough time asking those questions. The sailors forced Jonah to think about who he was. They forced him to. Oh, if we were more conscious and willing and able to really think about, where's my life going? What am I doing with it? Who am I following? Who am I? If you're in the midst of a storm, you're probably asking a lot of those questions. And they're not always easy questions to answer. But a lot of times they're questions we answer together. You got to do a little soul searching and answer them on your own. But Jonah's invited to process through all of these with a group of random sailors. Let's talk about who you are, bud. You're about to kill us. So we want to know who's responsible and what we can do. And so that's what they do. Tell us how you've offended your God so that we can fix this. We don't want to die. And then Jonah does something strange and unusual as far as how this story goes, even how the story ends. He says, well, it's my fault. I'm running from God. I told you that. I'm a prophet. I'm a Hebrew. I serve the God that lives in heaven and created all of this. And the solution is this. Toss me into the storm, and the water will calm. In his thinking through who he is, he thinks through what needs to go. What in his life, what in these people's lives needs to go so that they all might survive, so that they all might weather the storm, so that they all might make it through. And it's drastic. It's extreme. It's interesting. Jonah did not want to go to Nineveh. The reason he's in this deep water is because he didn't want to go to Nineveh and save people and tell them about God. And that because they just might repent and seek God's mercy. And he didn't want to do that. And now he's on a boat full of pagan sailors. Not good Hebrews like him. A bunch of just rando people, and he is willing to give his life for them. How do we stop the storm so that we don't die? Well, you throw me into and when I die and go into the sea, it will calm. It will settle. And then you will be safe. This is a strange turn. This is an interesting moment in the story. Something changes. And he is willing to give his life for these sailors. These sailors who are behaving way more honorably than he is. These sailors who are doing their best to rescue themselves. Jonah finally steps up and is reminded who he is. And in the midst of being reminded who he is willing to lay down his life so that they might be rescued. What do? Toss me into the water. Throw me into the sea, and everything will become calm. They don't listen to him. I think it's so interesting that their response is, well, that seems drastic. We're not into killing people here. I don't know what you Hebrew people are into, but we don't just sacrifice people on a whim. No. We'll try harder. We'll row harder. We'll look for any other boxes that can be thrown overboard. We'll throw those things off. We don't want to kill you, Jonah. That feels extreme. So in this, even these guys are acting way more honorably than this man of God, this prophet and representative of God. There's one book I was reading, and it was talking about how awful it is when the people of God behave more poorly than the worldly people. Our former DS, Jerry Kester, maybe I shouldn't quote him. It's too late. I've already said it, and I'm going to say the quote. So he would say, people in Seattle believe that they have to take a moral step down if they want to become followers of Christ, because it's what they've seen out of the church. Can I say that again? Did that make you go ouch at all? If it didn't, it should. People in the Seattle area think they have to take a moral step down if they want to be followers of Jesus because of what they've seen out of the church. And here in this story, we see this exactly played out. A bunch of people who have no idea who God is are behaving more honorably and sacrificially than the guy that represents God in the boat. And when he says, yeah, toss me overboard, they're like, we would never do that to anyone. I'm not doing that to you. It's interesting, isn't it? And sad. When we find ourselves in positions where people who do not believe what we believe behave more morally and just than sometimes we do. Have you ever been in a situation where somebody behaves with more compassion and grace than you do, and it shames you? I have. I've lost my temper or had a strong opinion or given a sharp word, and somebody who doesn't believe in Jesus at all calms the situation with grace that I didn't show and displayed mercy in a way that I didn't. And that's embarrassing to me to admit in front of you. But it happens sometimes. So we need to remember, who are you? Who are you in the midst of the storms? Are you somebody that actually does speak for God in this world? Are you somebody who represents Him well? Are you somebody who is willing to be somebody who is displays kindness and grace and ingenuity and all of things? Are you willing to be the person that is a light in the midst of storms? Or do you hide your head? I guess I'm a Christian. I guess I follow the God. Oh, that He's with us and He might help us find a way out. Cry out to your God. I guess if you really, really want me to. Who we are in the midst of the storm matters. It does. It shows who we really rely on when it comes down to it. And when we lean into the fact that we are Christ followers, when the storms of life swirl around us, whether they're our fault or not, who we are in the midst of them shows everyone around us who Jesus is. And so may we be people of integrity when things get difficult. They don't want to throw them out of the boat. But then when they've exhausted all possibilities and Jonah's standing on the side going, just do it. They do. But even before they do, they pray. Not to their gods, but to His God. Yahweh, first time chatting, first time caller, just want to check in with you. This is not our norm. We don't normally kill people. But this is what your guy is telling us to do. He said it. We don't want to do this, but we're going to do it. Please don't hold it against us. And they toss him in. And it says that the water goes calm. Quote number 2. The first one was, the Bible does not say that every difficulty is the result of sin, but it does say that every sin will bring you difficulty. All right, I've got the second quote. This is Timothy Keller, both of these. The Bible does, this is the second one. The Bible does not say that every difficulty is the result of our sin, but it does say, shoot. I messed it up. Let me try again. The Bible does not say that every difficulty is the result of our sin, but it does teach that every difficulty can help reduce the power of sin in our hearts. Romans 8:28. God uses all things. All things. God can use everything. Every storm, whether it be yours or not, He can use all of it for His glory. He can use all of it to transform your heart. He can use all of it to free you from sin. He can use all of it in this journey of life. And so, in the midst of this storm, we see two sets of hearts changed. We see Jonah's heart changed. We see him being willing to give himself to rescue them. There's a storm, and though he is running and rebellious and sleepy, his heart turns. The storm causes something to change in Jonah, to go from a disobedient prophet to what will become somebody who is obedient and crying out to God. And then the second thing that happens is the last verse in this chapter. At this, the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered sacrifice to the Lord, and they made vows to Him. The second group of people that are in the storm, this is not their storm. They're just caught up in the storm, and it's happening all around them. What happens? Their hearts are changed too. They believe. Whatever this God is, they are willing to offer sacrifice and make vows, and they have an honor and a fear of this God that they never had before. And you don't honor and fear things you don't believe in. And you don't make sacrifices to things that you don't believe in. And you don't make vows to things you don't believe in. They believe in Yahweh, God, the makers of the heavens and the earth and the land and the sea. In the midst of the storm, their hearts are changed. Storms stink. They really do. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants the storms of life around them. And sometimes we create them from our sin, and sometimes the world just has them, and we get to walk through them. And in the midst of those things, we can become bitter, angry, resentful, hard-hearted people. Or, like Timothy Keller said, we can see those moments as opportunities in which God is calling us further and drawing us near and allowing those storms to change our hearts and our perspectives and allowing those storms to help us learn how to best represent Him in the midst of them and sometimes even purifying our hearts from the sin that has caused it. Sometimes we end up believing on the other side. Even though we walked into the storm saying, yeah, I'm a Hebrew, I'm a this God. On the other end of it, sometimes it's a little more genuine. And sometimes our belief deepens. And sometimes God uses the challenges we face to draw us closer to Him. In your bulletins, there's a card. In some of the seat backs, there's even a card. It's got the logo thing on it. We did this last week with our boat nets, whatever those things are called. I can't remember, here on the sides. But you all have access to a card, I hope. And if you don't have one, grab one out of the seat back. And there are just 2 reflective questions on there. And one is, what is the storm that you're in the midst of or you see coming? You ever have those moments where the sky turns black? It happened yesterday. We were at the farmer's market, and it was a beautiful day, and then we could see the sky black, over in the east, and you could feel the wind start blowing it in. What are the storms that you're in the midst of or that you might see coming? And then question number 2, what is it that might need to be thrown into the sea? What is it that God might be challenging you in the midst of that to give up for him? What is it that might have to be sacrificed for you to come out the other side changed in heart? What are those things? I would encourage you to, the band is going to close us with this worship song. And I would encourage you to jot something on there. And as you jot something on there, just take a moment and offer the storm to him and say, I made this. My bad. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Or, I didn't make this. I don't know why it's happening. Oh, but God, give me grace. And then part 2. God, I feel like my obedient response is, and whatever it is, write it, say a prayer over it, and then there's something about moving your bodies and doing something. There really is. Our hearts and our minds and our spirit connects when our bodies move. So I would encourage you, I'm not going to force you, but I would encourage you to fold that little paper in half and come forward and clip it on our boat nets. It's just one more thing to be reminded that God is with you in the storm, and he will strengthen you in the storm. And ultimately, if you give it whatever you might need to give to him in the midst of the storm, he will lead you through it, and you will be changed as you walk through it. So they're going to sing, and you're going to prayerfully respond in whatever way God has prompted you. If you're writing, stay seated. If you're not, please join me standing. And we'll close with this. Oh, and then come forward and click 1. I said that, right?